So today we are going to talk about proxy in distributed system. So what is proxy? In distributed system, a proxy is an intermediary component that sits between clients and server to forward, manage, and optimize requests and responses. So instead of communicating directly between clients and server, usually they communicate with each other through proxy, which actually adds a bit of a control, security, and performance benefit. So just to give you a brief that why the proxies are used in distributed system is mainly to decouple the two different areas of clients and server, where the internal system complexity from clients has been hidden. Then also we can use it for scalability. For example, if there is a lot of traffic that is coming in to system, that can be distributed and the load can be reduced on backend services. Also, there's a security, can improve the performance, where we can introduce caching or request optimization, and as well as some kind of observability. Also, we can put it like logging, monitoring, and rate limiting. So this is what is proxies. So now let's look at forward proxy. It is often referred as just proxy, but we also call it as forward proxy. So just look at the definition of it. A forward proxy is act as an intermediary between clients and external servers, forwarding client request on their behalf. It helps to improve the privacy by masking client identity and enable content filtering or access control, and can sometimes be used for caching to reduce the latency and the bandwidth usage. So here in this diagram, you can see that now suppose there are three users located at multiple locations all over the world, and they're using different devices. Like one is using tablet, other using computer, one using mobile, and you can see the proxy sits between the user and the internet. So you can see here the proxy is sitting in between them, and the main purpose of this proxy is to receive the request from the clients, whichever device it is using, and then forwarding that request to the internet, and then internet will go to the respected servers, to which the server will respond to the request of the user. So this is the main difference between forward proxy and reverse proxy. Here, the proxy sits between the user and the internet. So you may ask that what may be the purpose of sitting between the user and internet. So there are some examples that I have written here, like privacy. Privacy is like hiding the identity of clients, like whichever client that is trying to access the internet. So the identity of client is hidden when proxy sending the request to the internet. Internet is not aware of from where the request is coming from, like which user, which client is sending that request. It only knows that the request is coming from proxy or proxy IP address, not from client's IP address. So in this way, the proxy helps to have the privacy of user limit to itself. Like it will not show any details of the sender who's sending the request to the internet. The second example is content filtering and restriction. It is again like whatever requests that are coming from user or the client, which will be controlled by proxy. Maybe sometime the request that is sent by user is not valid or it is not as per the rules and regulation of particular organization. So that may get filtered out at the proxy level. A proxy will not allow to go such request further to the internet. So it can kind of control and restrict some kind of access to specific website or content. So these kind of requests will get filtered out at the proxy level, and then only it will move ahead. Okay, and the last example is mentioned caching. Caching is mainly to see that how we can reduce the load when there is a lot of bandwidth usage going on. There are frequently accessed resources that we're trying to get. So in that case, we cache those resources, we cache those data at proxy level, and then it will be send it back to user as a response. So that also is possible. So if you want, I can give you an example where in an organization, suppose mostly organization or maybe a school, they try to make use of proxy because organization don't want their employee to go through to internet and try accessing certain website which are not specific to their work, or maybe for student if it is not educational purpose, like they apart from educational website, if they're trying to access something else, it has been restricted by the proxy. So these proxy block certain website and cache frequently accessed resources to improve speed and reduce the external bandwidth usage. So that is how the forward proxy is mainly used. So in distributed system point of view, the proxy, forward proxy or proxy is not that important for us, but it is always better to understand that what exactly is the proxy, or we call it as a forward proxy, and what exactly the purpose of it. And we'll also see the difference between them later on. So that is what the forward proxy is. So let's now move on to the reverse proxy. Now, what is reverse proxy? So reverse proxy is in contrast, it sits between the internet and the backend servers. where it will route all the requests coming from internet, that is mainly from the user, to appropriate servers. So it's like improving scalability, performance through kind of load balancing, caching also we can do here. And also we can provide security to the backend server or handling SSL termination and all those things. So it's always sits between internet and the backend servers, whichever they are located. So a reverse proxy is mainly, it looks like a load balancer. So yes, it is kind of load balancer, even though it is, we call it as a proxy, because what it does is whatever incoming request from internet or from user, those requests are evenly distributed to multiple servers. It's like we are balancing the load that is coming in, and we are just distributing it to the different servers that are available. So that's one case. Yes, definitely. There are proxies which act as a load balancer, like you might have heard of Nginx or HA proxy. These are proxies that serves the purpose of load balancer as well. Okay. Then there is something called security for servers. So how we can find out how we can provide the security. So it actually hides the identity of backend servers from client. So it kind of provide an additional security layer. So whatever server 1, server 2, server 3, these identity is now hidden from the internet. The proxy, the internet will send requests to proxy, and proxy will send those requests to the backend servers. So the internet or user is not aware of to which server it is the request actually going, or which server is actually responding to the request. So it's kind of an additional layer, a security layer that is been added. And sometimes it also handle the SSL encryption and decryption, mainly offloading the responsibility of backend server. So backend server don't have to take that responsibility. The proxy only take care of the encryption and decryption part. And also here we can use caching and compression. This to make the performance improvement, like whatever response that we get it from server, it will be cached at proxy level, and the proxy will respond to the requests that are maybe more frequent. So that can be cached in proxy level itself, so that the response will send it back from proxy whenever we receive the same request. If you ask me for an example, mainly the high traffic websites or where we have a lot of load that is coming, they uses the reverse proxy, because as we seen earlier that it's kind of load balancer where the incoming request will be distributed to the backend server in a different way. And we have seen earlier that how load balancer send the request, or what are the different strategy it uses to send the request. So it is the same purpose even for proxy. It also does the caching, and as we have seen, SSL termination and all. What is the difference between forward proxy and reverse proxy? See, we have seen earlier the forward proxy or proxy is acts on behalf of client. They try to manage the requests that are coming from client and send it to the internet. That is the whole role of a forward proxy. But in case of reverse proxy, it acts on behalf of server. It manages the requests that are coming from internet, and then it send it to the server. So that is the whole idea about it, or maybe the basic purpose behind it. But proxies are typically used for client privacy, or to have kind of access control over the internet. As we have seen that any organization or any school or educational system who's trying to have that access control for their student or for their employees, they use the forward proxy. Okay, and reverse proxy are used mainly for kind of load balancing, security, performance enhancement. So these kind of stuff will be done by reverse proxy. So in case both are mainly used in distributed systems, not that, but our main focus will be on the reverse proxy, where we are going to create system, and because we have more control, because as we are designing a distributed system, we need more control over the system that is serving the user's request. So in that case, we want to have control on our distributed system, and we want to serve user with better response. Okay, so this is what the reverse proxy is.